Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Monday. It is January 29th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And interesting day. It was mostly downhill. Um, we had a little bit of a correction from about 10 o'clock till lunchtime. And then prices traded down again. Once we started going lower again, I'd measure this leg and look for a possible measured leg down. And you can see we came real close to that by the close. We missed it maybe by a tick or two. So that would have been a good target if you caught one of these early moves and wanted to ride this down. But yeah, the bias was down most of the day. There was a couple of hours here late morning where we just had a correction, and but you could trade it up then because you don't know if this is not a reversal. The only problem is we really never had a break. This was really the first break of this trend channel, but at the same time, it was when it broke out here, it was acting a lot like a range. But this is pretty obvious. This is a downtrend. You got this trend line here, and it's holding. Um, but again, you couldn't be too certain that this wasn't an overshoot. I really thought we'd go lower and test this lower trend channel again, but we never even. I mean, we just barely broke into that half of the channel, and it reversed after that. So this is probably an overshoot. Is the way I'm going to end up looking at it. Of course, you could argue that there's an overshoot up here earlier, but a lot of times you'll get that in the overnight, and it doesn't really. You need to see it again. Uh, you can get a break of the trend, or you can get a overshoot during the overnight, and you can't treat it the same as you do during regular hours because it won't. For whatever reason, it just doesn't work out the same way. So I'll a lot of times ignore this in the overnight or this early stuff, and I'd look for another overshoot or another trend line break. If let's just assuming we'd had a earlier trend line break up here or whatever. So, but when I came in, really we were going sideways here. We had this channel down. We had a little correction. We had a close outside new high. So I like going short there just after 7 o'clock hour. That's a nice setup. Um, and it runs down to a new low, and then we get a little short-term reversal. So this shorter term channel had the break, moved to a new low, and then it kind of reversed. But now you got one going up. Let's talk about the up trades first. Um, you got a new low in place here, but that's just one leg down, and I really think you want to wait on either a higher low or a possible uh, another leg down, and you get that higher low right here in a nice bullish bar. So I like going long right there. It actually comes back and ticks lower, gives you a failed second entry short, and turns and goes out the other side and gives you another chance. So if you weren't in here, you definitely should have entered here, and I wouldn't be afraid to add on here because this may be the low of the day. We may be done with the downside, and this thing could take off like we have several times here recently and just continue trending. But it runs up, and we get a couple of closes outside, makes a new high. You don't really have anything to confirm this trend line yet, so I would just draw that trend line, and I'd wait on a lower high. Look how we push through the EMA, pull back, confirm the trend line now with that third touch, and make a lower high. That's where you want to go short. And if you weren't already in, you make a little higher low here. So I wouldn't be afraid to um, add on here, or if I wasn't already in, I'd get in here because that's a second entry short counting off the, even though it didn't break higher, you still get a higher low here, so it's still a second entry short, and it is a third or fourth touch off that trend line, so I like it. Plus, you can treat this like a failed break higher out of this little short-term range here. And at this point, I'd be looking for a measured leg down similar to this one at a minimum. Actually, there's your low right there. And so I'd be looking for that. And notice how we got almost to the tick, maybe an extra tick, and then it bounced. It does make one more push lower before it corrects. So two nice shorts there. And of course, really you could treat this like a failed second entry long as well, because there's your new high, first entry, pull back, second entry. It doesn't make a new high there, but it's still basically close enough, and it's right off that key entry point, which is that trend line working down. Um, I like this setup here, but I don't like it right into all that support. Even though it worked, you got to skip that one. Let it break lower first and clear that out, and then look for a breakout pullback short, which you get right here, and it is off a key entry point, but that bar is not very bearish at all, and I just don't really like it. If your bar looks better, this is probably could be blue, but on my chart, even though you got a break and a new high and it's off that key entry point, that's going to be real aggressive entering there, because it could just turn down and touch the low of this range and reverse again. So, and of course you do have a shorter term trend line working down through here that probably looks more like that right there. Like so, and you can see that. Of course you get a break, and now two legs down to a new low and almost a measured move. There's a lower high here, but you don't want to go short right into that low. It's just a first entry as well. That's your new low, pullback, first entry, right into the low of the day, right at the midline. That's just not a good place to enter. It's tempting to enter down here and catch this back to the EMA, being that far away from the EMA. But again, you don't really have a break of that very short-term trend line working down through there. Let me get this out of the way just so it doesn't get so messy. So you really can't go short there. And of course, now you get a break, and you're still going to look for a retest of this low. Notice the new low, first entry, pull back, second entry, nice bearish bar, only a few ticks in. That's a great setup right there. And even if you don't make a new low, it's probably going to tempt one, and you'll get a scalp out of it. But of course, this makes two legs down to a new low and bounces. There is a higher low right here. You can't enter on this one. It's not a very good signal bar. There's a higher low right here, but you really haven't had a clear break of this, and you don't know for sure if this is an overshoot or if we're going to go lower. So you really can't enter here. Wait on the reversal pattern and see if you get a failed second entry short. That comes right here. Your entry would be one tick above this green bar, but your stop has to go below this bar right here, the lowest point of the swing. This one's real close to being a green because that's the first break. But again, you're looking at this, and this could be an overshoot. It turns out to be, but you really don't know that. So this one, you could probably argue for this one to be green. But when you get the breakout pullback, notice how it breaks out of this trend line, pulls back and tests it and goes higher again. That's a pretty good sign that we're going higher. And that turns out to be a good entry. It's not good for anything but a scalp. I mean, you could probably get a runner out of that, but you wouldn't really know exactly where to exit that one. I guess you could, I take that back. I guess you could measure this and look for a measured move. And you can see we were close to that. So that would give you a good exit target. Once it turned down there, I'm going to exit regardless. So if I was shooting for a runner here, that's what I would do. I'd probably just start moving my stop up, and you'd have got stopped out right there, one tick below that. But it comes back. You don't really have this trend line in place yet. So and this is a first entry. You need to wait on a better setup than that. You get a failed second entry short here, but look where it's bouncing off that previous support. It's acting as resistance. But notice what happens here. It comes back, gives you a failed second entry short, and it confirms that trend line. So there's your first two swings. You draw the line off that. This confirms it. It's not a very good signal bar, but it's a failed second entry short, so it's probably going to trap people. I like going long there and look how it takes off. You know this trap people because the way it shoots off. So nice entry there. Comes up here. Look how it sails off. You get what looks like maybe a close outside, not very convincing, but you get a close out here. You try to go long once, you try to go long twice, it fails. I like going short there, and you don't really want to go long right here. That bar is too big. It's got a lot of stem. If you draw your trend line off these first two, it's still inside that trend line. It fits well off the low. You got to wait till these corrections are over, and you really need to let them play out. And that's what happens a lot of time. People get scared they're going to miss something, and so they go long here and they just get trapped. Um, and if you did get trapped, you probably want to reverse right there. And look what happens. You get it all back and then some. Um, and then we're working higher, and this leads you into the 2 o'clock hour. You really never got another good setup here until you got into 2 o'clock hour, so I didn't mark anything else. But you could have ridden this all the way down. You could have at least ridden it till you got the break and retail attempt, maybe got exited right there at the very least. But yeah, there's not a lot of entries today, but you got a few runners, and there is a trend working here. So I'm always going to try to get runners on trend type days. And there were several of them here today. You could have caught a couple that moved a few points to the upside as well. But yeah, that's what I saw today. Not the best trading day, but there was movement, and there's enough trades here that you ought to be able to find you a couple of good ones today. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you're off to a good start this week. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for now. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.